Well, hello there, and welcome back to the very latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. And boy, do I have a treat for you today. I have got somebody on my podcast I wanted to have right back when I started this almost 2 years ago. I've got the most amazing matchmaker for you, the wonderful Siobhan Copland. She is a founder of Cupid in the City. She is the owner of Project 143. She's a dating coach in her own right. She is absolutely incredible. And she's also the mother of 3 kids. I don't know how she does it all, but today, welcome Siobhan. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you, Jane. That was such a lovely intro. I'm taking all those compliments on board. So yeah, I am here with one of the babies. So I think he's going to try and have a little bit of say on this, but hopefully not too much.
Don't worry, it's good to have an interview with 2 of you. That'd be nice. Probably talk more sense than me, I expect. So we'll see what happens there. So tell everyone that's listening a bit more about yourself. How did you become a matchmaker?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's a cliche in a sense where I know a lot of people say they fell into things, but I feel like I did fall into it, but I feel like I fell into my calling, let's say, because I definitely feel now that being a matchmaker is not just a job. It's kind of like, it's a lifelong kind of occupation, you know, so it's once you're in it, it's almost hard to ever do anything else, I find. Yeah. So I fell into it while I was doing various things, one of which is I was working as a PA for a comedian, and then I was also working as a PA for some architects during the day. So I was doing the comedian stuff like in the evening, helping to organise comedy events and so forth. And he's the one that noticed that those that were coming to the comedy events all seemed to be single. Most of the people in the room. So we had like a regular crowd, and he said, do you know that most of the people here are actually single? And I said, oh, you know, I hadn't really noticed. So we did have a dating show as part of the comedy show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so what we would do is he'd send me out to the audience, and I'd have to pick one person in the audience who would then have to show me 3 people in the audience that they might like to have a date with.
No pressure for them.
Yeah, exactly. And so we did that, and then the audience would then decide who they should go on the date with after asking a few questions. So it was quite a fun segment of the evening. And, you know, we did actually get some successful pairings on the back of it. And he just suggested to take it one step further in me organising a speed dating night. So that's kind of where it began, is through the speed dating. And of course that's all fun, but I felt like we were still missing the mark, and I felt like I'd got to know the audience there quite well. And I just asked the question one day when emailing everybody and said, you know, would anyone be interested in being set up one-on-one? And the resounding yes, you know, pretty much everybody was like, yes, please, you know, set me up.
Yeah.
So that's when I started calling up people and spending a while on the phone, getting to know them a little bit more, and then looking at all my notes and going with my gut and sort of saying, actually, I think you'd get on well with this one, and started sort of setting up the dates. It was, you know, it was a fun hobby, but it just became an obsession before long. And it was when I got made redundant from my day job that the directors of the architect firm took me aside and said, Siobhan, we're kind of having to let you go, but you've got a really good business, a dating business. I think you should go and do that. And actually, we believe in it so much, we'll put some money behind you. And which was a great proposal. And unfortunately, it was silly of me, really. I declined their offer because it was like, okay, give me the sack, but I was a bit confused. But I was like, okay, fine, I'll try. They literally said, just don't go and get another job. And I really took that advice, and I ran with it. That was 2011, I think. And since then, I have just been committed to trying to keep this as my full-time job, and here we are.
I didn't know any of that, and I've known you for years, so that's fascinating. It's weird because I used to run comedy single nights back in the day when I was doing the whole singles event thing, and I found that they absolutely flopped when I was doing them because everyone's too nervous to laugh at a comedy night for fear of being judged. Did you find that as well?
In a sense, I mean, it wasn't, we did a speed dating. We didn't combine the comedy. We kept it just speed dating. But as I say, it was on the back of the people coming to the comedy. But yeah, I think that I know what you mean. So they're meant to be sat together, speed dating, and then laughing at the same time at the joke.
Yeah, that was it. And they think, hang on a minute, I don't want to be judged if I laugh at the wrong thing. And I imagine now it'd be even worse if you go to a comedy club on a date, being judged for laughing at the wrong thing. I think
as well, because I feel like humor is so different, isn't it, to different people?
Yeah.
There's so many different forms of senses of humor, aren't there, as well?
There are. People find different things funny. Some will find the very fact that they're sitting there in the first place funny. Some will laugh at the way someone's dressed, someone's talking, what they're saying. They've got similar experiences or never had something similar. People will laugh. It's very subjective.
Yeah.
But we tried it a few times and we got these high-name comedians into these events, and only one ever did well, and that was Lucy Porter. Do you remember her? I think she's still going strong.
Yeah.
I remember her now, but some of the other people didn't ever want to come back.
Oh, they'd be finding it too awkward.
Yeah, so we always wanted to get Lucy Porter back every time after that. But I think times have changed and times have moved on. So that's an amazing backstory you've got there. And now you're really, really busy with your company. But you've also got another company as well, haven't you, took over recently, which is Project 143. Can you tell everyone what that is?
I can, yeah. Project 143, as you mentioned, I took over at the start of the year, and it kind of came back to me full circle because I was consulting for Project 143 back in 2019. And I'd mentored Anika Patel, who started it up in 2016. And so that's how I ended up doing some consulting for them. It's a niche agency. So it's specifically aimed towards British South Asian professionals who would ideally like to meet someone who is from the same cultural background, essentially.
Yeah.
And, it actually works pretty well because I think with that particular culture in India, matchmaking is very much accepted, and there are matchmakers within the community working to try and get everybody paired all the time. So it's a lot more less of an alien concept to that particular demographic, and the fact that it's done in a way that's also modern, and it's not like meddling, it's more like consulting them and really letting them share their preferences and have this really open conversation throughout the process about what they're looking for. It works really well. But yeah, so I was consulting 2019, and then when Anika decided to sell the company, she just felt that I'd be the best person to take it over because I did have a lot of knowledge working within that space. So yeah, it's been really nice actually to be able to kind of direct it and help to grow the brand, because I think that there's a big opportunity there. And even with shows like Indian Matchmaker, I think people have been a little bit more curious about how matchmaking works within that community.
I was going to mention that myself, because the amount of calls I get, people that have seen that program and made them think for the first time about getting a professional matchmaker to help them. And it's raised awareness. There are no good TV shows out there that really explore how matchmakers work. There used to be Millionaire Matchmaker, of course, didn't they? The classic program. I don't think that's still on.
Yeah, no, it's not still on, but it's still very much, people to this day still, when I tell them what I do, they're like, oh, you're like the Millionaire Matchmaker. And I feel a little embarrassed when they make that comparison, because I mean, whilst I do work with a number of millionaires, I don't market myself as being a millionaire matchmaker. And also my approach is quite different than obviously what you see, like you say, for something that is made for TV.
Yeah. Well, this episode is called Secrets of a Matchmaker. So I know you can't share too many secrets, but how do you matchmake? That's what everyone wants to know. What is the process? Someone wants to join you. What happens?
Absolutely, great question. So I think that for myself, working as a matchmaker is really about knowing people. And that's why I do it, right? Because I really feel that I'm good at reading people. I can very quickly read people. I have a bit of a party trick where even if I'm out and I get talking to someone, within a few minutes, I can pretty much tell you, like, even what this person studied, and what they do for a job. Like I can just, because I'm so many years have been doing it and reading people, I could just, yeah, I can read people very quickly. And usually also their star sign. I usually can pick up those 3 things without them telling me.
Wow, that's spooky.
Yeah. So I definitely feel like it's important to know people, right? And not just to, take their sort of list of requirements and just go away like a shopping list and just go and find that shopping list. I think for me, being a matchmaker is being a guide. And I think if somebody comes to you, it's not to come to you with just their idea of what they think is a match. You've got to take some of what they say they want, and then your understanding of the type of person that they are and who you feel that they will be suited to, and what your experience has shown that that kind of person is suited to, Yeah. So I never just take what they tell me and go and say, okay, I can get that for you. Like I will always challenge actually some of their ideas about why they think this is what they need and what they want, and kind of come up with this a compromise of what I kind of feel they should be looking for, and also some of what their must-haves, and just paying attention to what their absolute deal breakers are, and respecting that, of course. But anything above that, I like to say, let me use my intuition, because that's my superpower when it comes to matchmaking, is intuitively being able to say, yeah, I can like find someone and I can see their picture straight away, and I kind of go, yeah, I think this person could be a good fit. Let me find out more about them to see whether my initial feeling is right.
I love that, because I'm the same. I can read people really quickly. You have to do that in this industry, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to know. I don't always get it right, but most of the times I do. It depends if I met them or spoken to them on the phone. But when I do my one-to-one sessions, I can always tell what they're thinking, what they need from me, and react to this. It's a bit like being Darren Brown to some degree. Do you find that? They think I'm mind reading them. I said, are you...
I started to think that I'm psychic. Like recently I've been saying, look, I'm sorry, I think I'm psychic because I'm actually speaking to somebody and it's in front of me, and honestly it's so spooky that I can sometimes actually picture that person in front of me as if that person's there. Like
really?
It's really spooky. Like the other day I was in a meeting and I was like, I can see already, like as I'm talking to you, I could see this woman almost draped across him. It was so weird. And I was describing, but he was then telling me that there was someone he'd met earlier in the day that actually fitted that description.
Wow.
So
okay.
Yeah. What that's about, but it's like stuff like that happens sometimes, and I just kind of get a very strong intuition, and I kind of let that guide me to whether I might have a person in the database or I need to go out looking for that person, But I kind of do let my intuition kind of guide me as to where to look and how to kind of know when I've spotted someone who is a good prospect, because the headhunting is a big part of it as well.
We'll discuss that in a second. That's a good thing to talk about. But I think it's due to empathy. You have to understand people and be able to read them and get on with them and all these different things and really care about them. I think when you're thinking about things and you are become attuned to that, then there's certain vibrations and things that you do start to get what may or may not be psychic experiences. I was saying to you before on the podcast, I had a session with a client and I was seeing orbs going around, and they weren't just bits of dust, it was orbs. And many times I've told people things and I thought, how do you know that? I thought, my gut feeling tells me that that's your experience, or maybe you did this in your life, or that's happened to you, or this is the sort of person that you want. And I think you've got the same thing. You have to. It becomes like second nature, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really good feeling actually, because you just feel that it doesn't really feel like a job. It kind of just feels like you're sharing your gift. And I think that's a beautiful thing. If we can all find a career where we actually feel like we've got a gift for something and we're able to share and use that gift every day, it's a real honor, really.
That's what I tell people every day. It's not difficult for me. Your job is harder than mine, because I get to do the fun part of this. I know you coach as well, but in terms of matchmaking, because dating coaches is empowering people, getting them all excited for the process. But then you've got to have the roller coaster ride of ups and downs and disappointments and highs and lows, don't you? So I know that you do feed off that a little bit, and you take it home with you. You sleep and you think about stuff.
Yeah. I take it very personally when I don't get to match somebody, because I don't get 100% success with people. I have a very high success rate, more like 80%. But then that 80%, there's going to be 2 out of 10 people that are going to be disappointed, and they're not going to. And of course, like, I hate to disappoint anybody, especially when I've put my heart, soul into something and I genuinely want to find that person. And I really do. Like, I'm thinking about these people 24/7. Like, you just don't switch off. Every interaction, every new person that I'm meeting, every conversation I'm having, that person's in my mind thinking, oh, could this be for them? You know, and it's very hard to switch off, to the point where I feel at some points it even affected my own relationship, because, you know, I didn't know when to switch off talking about and thinking about and stressing about finding someone for someone, that I wasn't even paying as much attention to the person that I found. So I had to, like, actually find that balance and kind of just say, okay, you've tried, you've done your best for today, Siobhan, like, tomorrow's another day.
I get the same problem. My wife told me off today. I took her out for a coffee today. Went out for a nice coffee and a chat. First thing I'm doing is talking about, I've got this client to do. I'm doing this podcast today. I was excited, and I thought, hang on a minute. She doesn't want to hear all this. Doesn't want to hear about the ups and the downs. Like, it's mostly ups, but the occasional down that happen. If someone has a bad day, you feed off that. You want them to be excited, and that happens. But I think that's the secret of a matchmaker in itself, isn't it? That it's not just about finding you the one. It's about taking the journey with them, because you have to explore. You have to go with them, then you're on the route. And that's what you do. So you mentioned headhunting. So I want to touch upon that quickly, because everyone asked me, they said, James, where do these agencies get all the clients from? Is everyone a paying member? Are they headhunted? Are the men all free? All these sort of things. People want to know the answers to that. And I have my own answers, of course, but I want to hear what you have to say to that.
So, you know, when it comes to headhunting, one of the secrets of a matchmaker is actually a lot of us do collaborate with one another. And the others might not always say this, but, you know, it is a small industry. So sometimes we do, you know, we share what clients that we're looking for, and we are able to kind of say, oh, you know, your client might be matched to my client. And that's an ideal scenario when two paid clients meet each other, because everybody then thinks, oh, they're equally invested into finding someone, you know, and it's definitely more of a plus, because you're also going to get the feedback from both sides, definitely, you know, from each matchmaker, and that's really useful. So, you know, we look at the database, we speak to other matchmakers that we might be doing some collaborations with, and then obviously we don't want to, look, for my agency, we don't work with hundreds of clients. It's just too many. We're a small team. We can't give them enough time and attention if we have hundreds of clients. It then just becomes simply database matching, almost like a online dating style. And for me, if I've got like 20 clients, that's probably my max, you know, that's our full capacity per matchmaker, 20 clients max. Anything more than that, they just become lost, you know, and the relationship doesn't seem as close. So as I said, the ideal scenario would be then client to client's going to match. But out of those 20 clients that I've got, I'm not just going to put the men and women together just because they're clients, right? So I've got to find the right person for each, and they've all got different requirements, they're different ages, different backgrounds. So typically the clients that we're working for may not match each other at all. So we need to go out and find those matches. And if I come across someone, if I'm at an opening of an art gallery or something, and I'm talking to somebody there and I'm getting to know them, and I say, oh, you know, but it so happens to be that you sound like you could get on, you know, you seem as though you could get on really well with somebody that I know that happens to be single and is looking, you know, are you in fact single? Have that conversation. Are you open to being introduced? Yes, great. Okay, look, how about I take your number? Let's have a bit more of a chat tomorrow, you know. I get on the phone to that person, and I'm then telling them, you know, so as I was talking to you about yesterday, you know, there's someone I'm actually looking for at the moment. I think you could get on really well. You seem to have very similar values, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then am I going to say to that person, but before I make that introduction, I'm going to need you to pay me such and such amount. You're going to have to commit to working with me for the next 6 months. And I'm going to be, you know, that's going to be a boundary towards making that match. So of course, it's in my interest just to get them on board, not ask for any money, and just kind of profile them, make sure they have the right intentions, and then try to make that introduction. And hopefully that's the only introduction they ever need is to my client. So that's kind of how it works. And so no, in every case that you're not going to, as a paid client, be meeting someone else that's equally paid client, but you can rest assured that they have invested in a process.
Yeah, it takes time to put yourself through that, doesn't it, as an
Yeah,
individual? Because why would you put yourself through this procedure and being interviewed, vetted, and
exactly.
being tested ultimately if you're
Yeah, yeah,
not going to be serious?
for hoops, when they
Yeah.
could just go on an app and get it a lot easier.
In theory, most people hate the apps, though, don't they?
It's true. I say a lot easier, but actually, is anyone having an easy time on the apps? I doubt it very much.
I've had a few success stories recently, people that have done in
Yeah.
America and in London as well, recently, which is just as well. But the majority of people do absolutely hate the apps, which is why they turn to a matchmaker and turn to a dating coach, isn't it? Because they're struggling with that.
Yeah.
And that is a whole different thing. But I still recommend people do the apps in the background if they want to, because it
Oh,
is just.
yeah. I'm not anti-apps, but I just think that it's good to increase your chances, isn't it? Increase the odds.
Yeah, do all you can. Go to events, go to a matchmaker, go to a dating coach, go on the different apps, but don't spend the whole day on 20 different apps downloading them and thinking that's going to change your luck. If something's not working, there's no point repeating it in 100 times as they do. But it's interesting you mentioned about collaborating, because I always tell people that when they ask me which agency should I join. I said, well, even the smaller ones often work together. So your pool is much bigger than you think.
Yeah.
And I know that you're very effective and you organise that yourself quite a lot, don't you?
Yeah. So I actually do head up the cross-matching group of matchmakers. I don't know if I can say how many matchmakers are in there, but I mean, there's the American one, there's a UK one. So in total, there's opportunities to collaborate with over 100 matchmakers in there, within those groups, isn't there? So.
And that's important. I'm glad that you did that, because I tell people that you do that. So it's
Yeah.
good to know that's true, because I'm sure it was. So just to get sort of
Yeah. No, I kind of
yeah.
sort of head up those collaborations. So no, it's a nice position to be in, to be honest, because when I came into the industry, I felt there were like these big fishes and these like really high-end matchmaking services, and there was this like East London girl coming in like doing it, and they're thinking, who is she? Like, where has she come from? And I had to really earn their respect, and and now it's got to a point where those big agencies that I used to really look up to are coming asking me for help, and I'm like, oh great, so you do trust me, you do think that I'm good at what I do now, like I've proved myself then now.
I always tell people that I work with, when they ask me who's good, I always mention you, don't worry. But you know that. You know that anyway.
Tell me, they're like, James highly recommended you. I was like, oh.
I do mention you a lot to people. There's only a couple of people that I mention a lot, and I'm not going to start name dropping them in your podcast, but I always mention you, and people ring me up and ask me, and I always tell them that you're really, really proactive in what you do, and more so than most people. So that's a good thing. But let's talk about other secrets in the terms of, have you had, I know you can't say a lot of this, we'll talk about your best experiences. Have you had any really bizarre people that have ever approached you, or weird date stories?
Oh yeah, bizarre. Oh, now you're asking me. Let me think. I mean, I think it's always challenging when there's like, situations where, so for example, I had a guy who was contacted me from Canada, and he wanted someone that was quite a lot younger than him, and he's had a very clear idea of what he was looking for. But it's interesting because sometimes people tell you something about themselves, and then they say a picture speaks 1,000 words, and I remember him saying that he doesn't drink, and that he's sober, but the one picture that he showed me, he was at a table and he literally had about 20 glasses of drink around him, and he looked absolutely sloshed, and I was like, really? Is this the picture you want to, position yourself as this serious kind of businessman that you claim to be? And yeah, he just sort of, to be honest, what happened, I'll be honest, I'll tell you this story here actually, because I tried really hard to find this guy a match, and I put many profiles to him. And obviously it was challenging given that he was in Canada and he wanted someone in the UK. He didn't even want someone in Canada. He just wanted UK only. And he was willing to fly out here and meet them, and, in the hope that they would come and relocate to Canada to live with him. So that was a bit of a challenge in itself, But in the end, what he actually did, I got sent papers where he sued me for not introducing him to women who he perceived as hot enough. And yeah, and when I got to phoned up the people who sent the letter, And I really told them about my experience. And I said, look, this is how many women I've put. He's rejecting them all. He says they're not hot enough. And the woman on the end of the line just said, do you know what, honey, you're not going to hear from us again. Like this. It goes. So I think that was the bizarre one for me, because it was, I mean, he certainly didn't try to present himself image-wise in the best possible position. And yet, even though I even sent him models, apparently none of them were hot enough. And so, that was a bad experience. And you know what? Experiences like that can throw you and make you want to pack it in altogether, to be honest, because, you know. And
I know that quite a lot recently, yes. I do, but...
You don't realise like how much, because especially when you put your heart and soul into something and you're in it for the right reasons and you really want to help people, and then you've just used up so much of your energy into trying to help this person, and then it's that kick in the teeth and that kind of trying to take you down, and it's hard, like, to bounce back from. There've been a few occasions when I just thought, this is too much stress, like I can't be dealing with this. You know,
it does happen. I think some people are a bit delusional. Some self-sabotage, and they put excuses up to stop them being hurt ultimately, and this does happen. And probably one of the secrets of this industry is that we can't help everybody. It's not possible, because people can't help themselves. Some people aren't ready for this. You mentioned about the bad pictures. Bad pictures are so common. We work a lot, don't we, with photographers who specialize in taking good pictures to sell people. It's marketing. But let's spin this round again then. Tell me one of your favorite success stories.
So one of I've got a couple that's in mind, but I think the most recent one was really cute. Again, this is working with an international client. So he was actually based in New Jersey. And, you know, that was a bit harder because I don't have a huge database of women in the US. Like that was mainly headhunting that I had to do for him. And he was just the sweetest guy, like, you know, very successful, multimillionaire businessman, but very humble, very charitable and handsome and everything. And I thought, oh, this should be easy, you know, but it's surprising. He's 5'7", you know, even having all that, women still will say no based on being 5'7", which is just ridiculous. Right. Women need to let go of this height issue, honestly. So I was kind of struggling. I needed to find him a woman that was quite spiritual, that was beautiful, but like a natural beauty, and that wasn't like, you know, conceited and, you know, always all over Instagram taking a million selfies. She needed to be more self-aware and grounded.
Girl next door sort of thing.
Kind of thing, exactly. And you know, he had one child, he wanted to have more children, so ideally he was looking for someone maybe a little bit younger, not too much younger, but you know. And so I ended up finding her after, as I said, getting quite a few knockbacks along the way. But what was so nice, he remained so patient and so understanding and so grateful for the effort that I was putting in, you know, and that was so nice because you don't always get that. So he was in New Jersey, she was in Miami, and they so happened to both be going on holiday to Mexico at the same time, but in different parts of Mexico.
Okay, yeah.
So I managed to get them to agree to meet, but then plan the date for them to meet somewhere in the middle of where they were both staying in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And that's where they had their first date on their sort of holiday.
Oh, wow, what a nice place.
I know, it was so nice. And they just got on so well because they really did connect on that kind of personal development and all of that they were both into. And they also so happened to originally be from Colombia. So there was that cultural connection there as well. But they just really hit it off. And then because obviously they were living in different cities, they continued to meet up in different states and just like had real adventures every time they met. Within 6 months, popped the question, they got married now within less than a year. Oh, so that was
that's incredible. That's so lovely story, isn't it?
Yeah.
They gave it their shot and they gave it their all and it worked out for them. Yeah. And that's so amazing. That's what you do. You have these success stories, which means that what you're doing is so worthwhile.
Yeah.
And it keeps you going, all the positive side of things.
And hopefully... and there's one other one actually I want to share, because this is also for the older woman that's maybe 40 plus, that maybe feels like, you know, men only want young women and all this. So I was working with a client, again, multimillionaire businessman. He was 49 and he was ideally looking for someone probably about 40, you know, would have been his preference, but his children were grown up. So it would have to be someone that doesn't want to have more children. He was actually Asian, actually was Project 143. Mm-hmm. So he was ideally said he was looking for an Asian woman. So he had been having introductions to Asian women. I intuitively felt he'd get on really well with a woman who's exactly the same age as him, but she was Dutch. And, you know, just they both had the same kind of sense of humour. So, you know, like how we talked about humour earlier, mm-hmm. I noticed they both had great sense of humour, similar. And I just thought they'd have a real giggle together, you know. And I thought, you know what, I think they'll get on. He initially said no because of her age. He wasn't entirely sure, but again, as a matchmaker, sometimes you've really got to give that little bit of nudge. There's that persuasion that has to come in there. And I twisted his arm and I said, look, just go for the date. What's the worst that can happen? And I just want to get your feedback to see what it's like dating outside of your current preferences, you know. And so he agreed. He's like, you know, you're right. What's the harm? We'll just go for a drink. And they went for a drink. They both texted me after and said, I've not laughed so much on a date ever before. I laughed the whole night. And again, after 3 dates, he asked her to go away with him. They went on holiday for a week. They extended it to 2 weeks, then extended it to 3 weeks, then extended it to a month. And now, again, they're getting married. So it was just, that was one of my favorites as well, because it just shows that sometimes that little bit of persuasion from somebody else allow you to go for something you wouldn't normally go for can actually work out really well.
That's such a great thing to say, expanding your options, because whatever you've been doing hasn't worked for you so far. Yeah. So getting a matchmaker to go there, particularly one as good as you, to just give you a chance to think about other options and what else might be out there. And it just opens things up and you might just be pleasantly surprised as you prove there. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing those stories. That's incredible. If we have to finish off now, unfortunately, because I want to talk to you for a lot longer. We always do talk, but I want to just say that if someone wants to find out more about you, and you're keeping the city, how do they find out more about you?
So I'm on Instagram. I'm quite active on there, just as my name, Siobhan Copeland. But also, if you want to check out either of the agencies, then you can contact me, set up a call, either at project143.co.uk or cupidinthecity.com.
Amazing. And don't forget that anyone listening, do check out those websites if you're interested about this. They are very, very good agencies. I completely endorse them all the time, obviously. And hopefully you'll get some calls. So thank you very much, Siobhan. It's been a real privilege to talk to you at last. We got there in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.